What are some of the best unique units in the game of Age of Empires 2? The Goths have that awesome Huskarl, and the Mongols have that really strong Mangudai. The Spanish have the Elite Conquistador, and it is a very powerful unit because of the ways in which it synergizes with some other Spanish units. Let's take a look at it. The Elite Conquistador is basically a hand cannoneer on a horse. As such, it has higher speed and generally better statistics, except it lacks the hand cannoneer's bonus damage versus infantry. However, in my opinion, the speed of the Conquistador definitely makes up for the fact that it's lacking that bonus damage, because it can hit and run units, and that speed allows it to be used in ways that it couldn't normally be used if it was slower. For this video, I'm going to be looking at the fully upgraded Elite Conquistador because I am a deathmatch player, and this is how I normally see the Conquistador. Now, it costs 60 food, 70 gold, and for that you get 90 HP, 18 attack with a +6 bonus damage versus rams and +2 versus buildings. It has 5 melee armor, 6 pierce armor, and 6 range. These high statistics mean that it's difficult to counter with an equal number of units, because it can have a higher damage output than most units, and it has a relatively high survivability. It seems to me that you should use Conquistadors versus infantry, versus archers to some extent, and versus gunpowder units. It's great against infantry because it has a ranged attack, and the infantry is obviously melee, so that there's that distance between the two units that the infantry has to close, and the speed of the Conquistador means that if you're paying attention, you can keep those Conquistadors safe. Versus arbalests and hand cannoneers with equal resources, this unit will win, which I found somewhat surprising because arbalests are normally a pretty good counter against cavalry archer units. However, you have to keep in mind that the Elite Conquistador has very high attack, and I think that that's why this happens. However, it is pretty expensive, which makes it difficult to field, and if your opponent has a better economy than you if you're trying to field the Conquistador, oftentimes the weaker units will still be able to take those Conquistadors down if you're not able to get enough of them up on the field. The Elite Conquistador is best used when it's used in combination with Paladins, or if you can't afford them, Hussars. And the reason for this is because those two units will oftentimes soak up all the damage, which keeps up those hard-hitting Elite Conquistadors safe. Also, the Paladin is great because it counters a wide variety of units that counter the Elite Conquistador, but I'll talk about this in just a bit. Now, the Conquistador is both a cavalry unit and an archer unit, which means it is technically weak versus halberdiers and versus skirmishers. However, because of the Conquistador's high statistics, you have to vastly outnumber that unit, and if you try to use skirmishers or halberdiers with equal numbers, the Conquistador will win. Now, I would say that the skirmishers and halberdiers had the better engagement because they lost a whole lot less resources. However, there are times where this doesn't matter, so you need to keep this in mind. Conquistadors are also weak to camels and paladins, and these are two great units that an anti-Spanish player should use to take out the Conquistadors. Using siege versus the Conquistador is an interesting idea, but you have to be careful in how you use it. And the reason for this is that the Conquistadors have a high damage output and they have bonus damage versus rams. So if you just try to use rams to distract, or if you just try to use onagers to snipe them, and the Conquistador controlling player is aware, this won't work because the Conquistadors can simply outmaneuver a lot of these units. However, if there's a large mass of Conquistadors, and say you have a bunch of onagers, and the Spanish player isn't paying attention, you can cause severe damage versus the Conquistador. So keep in mind that when you're thinking about using siege. But when countering Conquistadors, keep in mind that there's a wide variety of units that will get the job done. If you can force an engagement with elephants, you should use these. Genoese crossbowmen, longbowmen, and rattan archers are excellent counters versus the Elite Conquistador because of the various bonus damage or because of how cheap these units are. Especially when you look at them versus arbalests. They really work way better than arbalests. Huskarls, Condottieri, Kamiyuks, and Elite Eagle Warriors will absolutely destroy the Elite Conquistador, and the Huskarls and Condottieri especially, because they are very fast infantry units. Mamelukes, Geniteurs, Camel Archers, and War Wagons will also deal great damage versus these units. And what this means is that if you're a Spanish player and you're heavily relying on the Conquistador, you're going to need to make other units that complement it. Oftentimes, Paladins and Skirmishers will get the job done, but you'll want to change up the units you make when you're looking at your enemy's army composition in order to meet that in the most effective way. So for example, against these infantry units you might want to go with champions or hand cannoneers, and against those units that are mounted it'll be a great idea to use your own halberdiers. However, because you are the Spanish and you have a very open tech tree, you'll be able to do this and to do this effectively. Now, in most of my previous unique unit overviews, I try to compare the unique unit to an existing unit that civilization has access to. However, I don't think that's really necessary, because the heavy cavalry archer for the Spanish really isn't that great, because they miss Parthian tactics, so you should almost never make them. And I think that as the Spanish, the only time you'll want to use hand cannoneers instead of the Conquistador would be if your enemy is really relying on infantry. All in all, I think that the Conquistador is a great supporting unit, so you kind of put it behind your front line and let it deal a lot of damage, similar to how you would use a Janissary or a hand cannoneer. But it's also a great raiding unit that should really be combined with the Paladin. And in pro deathmatch games, this is a combination that you will see a whole lot. I hope that you have enjoyed my video, and I hope that you have also found it useful. See you later. Have fun playing with the Conquistador.